In this video, we will see how to create a maps activity. And that's just basically an activity that shows a Google map, and then we'll do some basic stuff on that specific activity. So in order to create a map or to add a map to your application, you're going to go to your Java folder and you're going to say new, go down to other, and you'll see, sorry, not other, Google, and you're going to go to Google Maps activity. So then you can give your maps activity a name. I'm just going to leave it as it is, maps activity. That will be the layout name, the title will be map, and so forth. And just click on finish there, and then it creates everything for you. So there's a few things that gets created for you, and you get basically opened at this specific page, which is the Google Maps API XML file. So you'll see there it's under the values folder, and it's the debug one. There's two of them. There's a debug one and a release one. So in order to test your application, we're just going to look at the debug one. But if you want to get to the other one, you can go to project. You can go into app, into source. You'll see under debug, there's a values Google Maps API. There's also a release one, Google Maps API. So you'll see there's a place to put your key, and you need a key for the debug code as well as for the release code. Okay, but just to test it out for now, we only need this one key. So if you go to your values folder, and that's actually the file that's currently opened up, you'll see that we've got the main activities XML file. So in the main activity, the only thing I'm going to do here is just to say intent, or maybe just say start activity, and say new intent, and let's go to the maps activity, maps activity.class, or I could have just set this one to the launcher activity. But in any case, in the main activity, we're not going to do anything, so I'm going to close that one off, and in the main activity, we will just go to the maps activity. So there's two files that gets opened up. It's the maps activity, and then there's the Google Maps API. So for this to work, it's actually very nice that you can do now is to basically go and take this whole link and make sure that you take the whole thing. So I'm going to take that whole link there. You can see it's got some coding package name, SHA-1 certificate, fingerprint in that whole thing. So I'm going to copy that whole line there. Make sure you copy it. Then you're going to go to a new web page, paste that whole thing there, and it's going to take you to the developer's console. Right, and then it gives you this application or this web page, and you can choose to create a project, create a new project for this, or just maybe use a project that you already created there. So it doesn't matter. You can just use create a project and say continue there. And if you haven't done a project yet, it will in any case create a new blank project for you. Right, and then you get to this page that says the API is enabled now. The project has been created and Google Maps API has been enabled. Next, you'll need to create an API key. So you're going to say create the API key, and that creates the key for you that you're going to use inside of your Android application. Right, and then it gives you this key. So this is your API key. So I'm going to copy that key there, and then we can go back to Android now. And you'll see there's a place inside of the Google Maps API where you can paste your key. So I'm going to paste my key there, and that's all I need to do for the maps to start showing. So now we can save. Now in this Google Maps API key, make sure the key is there. And if you go into the manifest now, you'll see that that key is automatically also there. It gets it from your Google Maps key. So there's some data and metadata that was added to your manifest, but you don't need to change anything there. So this key there, by pasting it here, puts it in the correct places in your manifest as well. Okay, so that's step number one. And then step number two would be to actually start running this thing now. So now, very important, you need to go and create a new virtual device. And you're going to search for a virtual device that's got this little icon in the Play Store column. So you'll see at this stage, I don't see any other virtual devices other than the Nexus 5 and the 5X that's got this icon there in the Play Store. So you're going to choose one of these two, and I'm going to say next there. And then you can see I can choose Nougat or Android O, the newest one. So just make sure you download that one. So you can see O is not downloaded at my side. So I can download this one, or I can use this one. So just choose one of these two then for the system image. If you don't have one, you need to download it, unfortunately. And then you can just say next there, give your virtual device a name, and finish up. So I've already created one, that's API 24. This is the Nexus 5X there. So I'm using that one. So I'm going to say OK. I'm going to launch that one. So very important, your virtual device must be Play Store compatible. Right, so now you can see that the application is launched, and now it says Intro Maps video won't run unless you update the Google Play services. So this is very important now. If I go out of my app, you can see that I've got the Play Store icon here. So this is my virtual device, and I've got the Google Play Store there. So I can basically update my Google Play services right from the Play Store. But now in the app, they also make or give us the information there on where to update. So you can just click on the update button there, which will take you to the Google Play Store, and then we can click on update there to update the app and just say continue. So if you don't have a virtual device that's got the Google Play Store, you will not be able to update the Google Play services. So that's very, very important that you get a virtual device that's got the Play services, or you can install the Google Play services. So another way to get your Google Play services, if for some reason you can't log into Google or whatever, because you need to log into your Google account in order for this to work. So another way of doing this is to you can go to this website that says www.apkmirror.com, APK Google Inc., and then it ends off with Google Play services. So on this page, you'll see that at the bottom there's versions for the Google Play services. So don't take the beta version. So maybe this one there, you can choose this one and download this file. And after downloading, you can basically just drag that to your virtual device, and it will start installing the Google Play services. So if you're not able to do it through the Play Store, you can download it on this website and then just drag it to your specific application or to your virtual device, and it will start installing on your virtual device. So let's just wait for Google Play services to update, and then we'll go on from there. Okay, so the Google Play services is installed now. So let's just run this again on the same device, just to make sure that it's now running. So if you run it now, you should start seeing a map. If you're not seeing a map, then it means your Google Play services has not been installed successfully. So now you can see the map is displaying. And what is it displaying? If we go to the maps activity, you will see that we've got a support fragment, a map fragment there that's called map. And on that map, fragment, we call get map async. So on the fragment itself, let me just go to the layout quickly. There's the map. So you can see this fragment has got, or on this fragment, which with the ID of map, we will actually start showing the map. So on the map fragment, we get the map async, and that get map async method basically sets up your map. And as soon as your map is set up and ready to go, it calls on map ready. And then you've got a reference to that map. You can see this coding was generated automatically. So there's a Google map declared at the top, and we set our Google map to this one that was passed in. And then they just add a marker in Sydney there. So they add a new lat long object there with a latitude and a longitude. And on the map, they add a marker with the title marker in Sydney. And then they move the camera to that specific location called Sydney. Okay, so we'll do a few things in this application now. So this is just some sample code that they gave us now, right from the start. So let's just see what we can do by just adding some few lines of coding to see what we can do with this specific map application. So what I want to do is to quickly create a menu type of system. So I'm going to use the action bar. So let's just create in the resources folder. I'm going to create a new directory. And it's going to be in the main one, and I'm going to call this one menu and say OK. Right, so in this menu, the menu folder, I'm going to create a new menu resource file. And let's call this one map and say OK. Right, so if you go to the text part there, this is then your new menu. And we want to add some items into this menu. So I'm going to say item, and then I'm going to add a few items there. So I'm going to add an ID first for this one. And the ID will be, let's say this one will be at plus ID. And then we can call this one the action normal, because we're going to have different types of maps now that the user can choose from. And the first map that we're going to have is the normal map, or normal map. So let's just go and add another attribute here. So we're going to have the order in category, and the order in category should be, let's say 100 there. We'll set that later on. And then also I'm going to use app show as action and choose never there, so that we don't have the action bar there. Alt enter for the import there for that app. And then I'm going to have a title there. So I'm going to say Android. Let me just see if I start typing title. There we go. And the title, we can say something like normal map. Okay, so that is my very first item there. So I'm going to have a few items in the action bar, but I'm not really going to display the action bar. It's just the old menu type of system. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different options there. So the first one will be for the normal map. The second one will be for the hybrid map. And the third one will be for a satellite map. And this one will be a terrain map. And then we can have one that says basically none there. Okay, so no map at all. So it's normal map. This one's text will be hybrid map. This one text could be satellite map. This one will be the terrain map. And then this one could just be no map at all. Okay, so these are the different options that we can choose from. Now, the order in category, you can choose what the order in category will be, but if I leave it like this, it will be in this exact same order if all three of them, or 5 of them is exactly the same value. Okay, so there's going to be normal map, hybrid map, satellite map, terrain map, and no map at all. So if you want to add this to the strings XML, also an easier way of doing that is to just click on it and say Alt Enter, extract the string resource, and we can leave it as normal map, which is fine. So I'm just going to say okay. So that's been added to the strings XML. Alt Enter again, extract string resource, just add it there. That's fine. Alt Enter, same thing again. Alt Enter. And for that one also Alt Enter and add it to the strings XML. Okay, so then we show this as an action on the action bar never, which means that we're not basically going to use the action bar, but we're going to use the menu. Okay, menu system in the action bar basically. Right, so the next part, in order for this to work, is we need a few options here as well. So for the action bar, you're going to change this to the app compat activity there. So at the top, to make sure that we can actually do the map or the menu part. So make sure it's app compat activity. Right, and then we can create some methods that will work with this menu system of ours. So the first one, we can go to code and override methods, and we need to search for the onCreate options menu. The onCreate options menu, and we're going to create that one now. And then we also need code override methods, the onOptions item selected, onOptions item selected method. Okay, so it's those two methods. So the first one there, the onCreate options menu. In this one, just add some space there. We will just say menu inflator equals get the menu inflator to inflate this menu of ours, and we're going to say inflator.inflate. Then we go to r.menu, that's that new folder that we created. We called it map. So that is the map XML, this one that we defined all the items in. We're going to say r.menu.map, and then for the last argument or the second argument, we just passed in this menu object that was passed through. And then we will just return a true there. Okay, so that's all we need. That basically then creates the options menu for us, and then if something happens there and something gets clicked in that options, we will go to the on options item selected method. Okay, so now in this method, basically at the end we will just return true. So let's just set up some values here for those values that get selected. So I'm going to use a switch now. We're going to say switch, and then I'm going to pass in the item object that was passed in, but calling on that object, I'm going to call get the item ID. So that item ID will then be whatever the user chose there. It will either be action normal, action hybrid, action satellite, terrain, or action none. So those are the values that I want to test for. So the first case there will be r.id.action normal. So let's say the user chose the normal map to display. Then what we're going to do, we're going to make a link to this M map there, which is basically our Google map. So on the map, we're going to set the map type, and we're going to set the map type to be Google map. And you can see there's the first one, map type normal. Okay, and then I'm going to break, and we can do the rest of the cases as well. So there's 5 cases. I'm going to copy that 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So if it's normal, the other one is the hybrid one. And then for the map type there, I'm going to have hybrid as well. And then if it's hybrid, normal, satellite. If it's satellite, then show the satellite view. If it's, let's say, what's the other one? Terrain. If it's a terrain map that the user chose to see, and then we show the terrain map. And then if there's none, then we also show type none. Okay, so let's just quickly run this and see if it actually works. I'm going to run it quickly on the emulator, and let's see if this options menu displays. Right, so it launches the activity. The map will start showing hopefully now, and there you can see there's our options menu. We've got normal map, hybrid map, satellite map, terrain map, and no map at all. So if I click on no map, it removes the map. If I click on normal map, that's the map that we were at. Okay, so let me just zoom in a bit. So you can see there's the marker in Sydney. In the coding, we're going to set up some markers now as well. So there's the map. So I can choose then, show me the hybrid map. Zoom in some more. And then it gives you this hybrid map. Remember, the hybrid map is something between the normal and the satellite map. So it's like the satellite map, but it's showing your street names and stuff like that. Just zoom in a bit. Okay, so that's the marker in Sydney. So the normal map looks like that. The hybrid map, you can see there's some road names. Let's go to the satellite map, which will basically look the same. You just won't see the street names there. You can also look at the terrain map, and it shows you the terrain map there. And then no map will not show anything, just the marker. Okay, so these are some simple things that you can set for your map. Let's go and have a look at a bit more. So if you go to your maps XML file, which is the one that goes with your maps activity maps XML, then you'll see this is the fragment. So on this fragment, I want to add a few more values. So I'm going to set a few things here. We're going to say map first. So we're going to say map. So let's have the map type there, and the map type should be, you can choose there normal or none or whatever you want there for the map type. Okay, so I see that map has now been added there at the top. Okay, right, and then the next one, let me just open up some space. The next part of the map, so you can set the map type right here to normal or to hybrid or to whatever you want. So now I'm going to set the map to also show a user interface compass there. So let's show the compass, and we set that value to true. Then we can also set on the map the UI, let me just see, rotate, UI, rotate gestures. And that one we can also set to true. so that the user can rotate the map using his fingers. And then also you can set the UI scroll gestures, and that UI scroll gestures just means that the user are able to scroll through the map if he wants to. So if you look at your map now, I'm able to actually move around in the map. Okay, so just to make sure that we are able to do that, when we start adding some other coding in here, we need to make sure that our map is scrollable. Okay, so now going to the map again, and we can also add a user interface tilt gestures and set that to true as well. So if you want to make use of some tilt gestures there, also map.UI zoom controls equals true. Now you'll see on the map now, we can't really zoom in. I need to double click there and then it zooms in. So if you want to have zoom controls, you'll see the zoom controls now when we run it. There will be a plus and a minus so that I can zoom just using, basically using my fingers also. So to use your fingers to zoom in, you will say UI zoom gestures equals true there. And then you can use your fingers to pinch or to zoom and so forth. So either the zoom controls, you can maybe set that one to false then if you're using your fingers, or whichever one you want to use. Okay, so these are just some basic stuff. You can see now there's no compass there and there's no zoom control. So if I run this now, you should see a few more things on the map that you can interact with. Okay, so when the app launches now, you can see that there's some zoom controls added now. And we still have our menu options there. The user, actually you can't really do the gestures with the virtual device, but if the user is using the phone right now, there's some gestures that was activated as well. For example, pinch zoom, we can pinch zoom and so forth, which I cannot do on the virtual device. Okay, so let's set up some data on this specific map. So there's a lot of stuff you can set in your XML file here. So if you go to the Google developers website, you can see there's a lot more that you can set inside of this activity maps XML. So I'm going to do some of those stuff inside of the coding part. So as soon as your map is ready, that's where we can actually start adding markers and so forth. So I'm going to basically remove this part so we don't add a marker. We're going to add our own markers now. So the first one I want to do there quickly is to create some static variables at the top that we can use for latitude and longitude. So I'm going to use lat long, and let's call this one, there's a shopping center in Pretoria in South Africa, mainland Pretoria, and I'm going to set up a new lat long, and now I need to indicate the latitude and the longitude there. So the first value I'm going to have as minus 25.782420, and then the second value there will be 28.275439. Okay, so that's my first marker that I want to set to the map, and then the next one, static final latitude longitude. Let's call this one Protea Hotel, which is next to the mainland Pretoria, just to show two markers quite near to each other. And that latitude longitude will be minus 25.786508. And then the second one there will be 28, the latitude will be 28.271187, and then end it off with the semicolon. Okay, so you can add your own markers there or your own locations. This is just mainland, the big mainland mall in Pretoria, as well as the Protea Hotel next, or basically next to it. Okay, so those are the two markers or the two locations where I want to place markers on my map. So I'm going to do the following. I'm going to call my map there, my map object there, and on that map object, I'm going to add a new marker. So I'm going to call the add marker method, and then I'm going to add new marker options. Now this marker options will help me to set up this new or this specific marker on the map. So I'm going to go down to the next line and I'm going to put a dot there. And the first one you can set there is the icon. So I think before we do this, we need that icon. So we'll come back to this now. Let's just create, you can choose any two pictures. So I've downloaded two pictures, a picture of a hotel and the picture of or a mall type of picture. So you can go to your resources folder and go to new and say image asset. So mine will be, I'm going to call the first one hotel and it's going to be image. I'm going to search for that image quickly. Now you guys can just download any two pictures there. It really doesn't matter, and add them the same way. So I'm going to go with the hotel picture there. It looks like this. And I'm going to go down and set it to none there. So I don't have that white around it. And the rest is fine. I'm going to say next, and I'm going to say finish. And then let's add another picture there as well. So I'm going to go to the image asset again. Let's call this one now mall, also image. Gonna go to my desktop again, and that one should be the mall, right? Okay, so just the simple pictures. Say none, and then next, and say finish. So I've got two pictures now that I want to have as icons on the map for those two markers. So you've seen the marker on the map that we currently have is this red marker. So if you want to display something else, I'm going to show you now how to do that. Okay, so let's start that again. On your map object again, we're going to call .add marker, and then you're going to have new marker options, and let's just go to the new line now. Right, so the first thing that you want to do there is to add an icon. So to add the icon, I need to use that bitmap descriptor factory. So you're going to use the bitmap descriptor factory class there, .from resource, and then the resource that you want to use there is in the r.mipmap folder, and in the mipmap I've got hotel and I've got mall. So I'm going to use the hotel for the first one. And then the second thing that you can set is an anchor there, which means that on this specific position on the anchor, okay, let's just get rid of this error now. I think I've got one bracket too many there. Okay, let's just go to the next one. Okay, so it's dot, let's see if it picks it up now. Okay, there we go. 0.0f, and I'm going to add a next one for a 1.0f there, and that anchors the marker on the bottom left basically. Okay, so then the next part there will be the title. If you want to set the title, if the picture is not enough, you can set a title, and this one would be for the hotel. So let's just call it as a string, Protea Hotel. Then to the next one, you're going to say dot position, and the position now takes in a latitude and a longitude. So that would be the Protea Hotel that we declared at the top. So I'm going to pass in Protea Hotel, and then that is the whole thing. So then we add a new marker to the map. Now adding a marker this way will then show that picture on the map. So let's just add another marker again, the same thing, but instead of going to hotel, we're going to have the mall picture now. And we can say not Protea Hotel, but we can say Menlyn Mall. Right, so if we run this now, somewhere in South Africa, we should see those two markers now. Okay, so now you can see the map and you can see the two pictures there. I need to zoom in there to get to those. So if we zoom in a bit more, you'll see there's the two. Now, obviously, this whole zooming in and zooming out, you don't want your user to be able to do this now. Or, well, he's able to do it, but you want to zoom into the correct place already right from the start, so that he doesn't need to go in plus, plus, plus the whole time. So, okay, so both of them are at the exact same place. Let me just see. Okay, both is at Protea Hotel. So this one should be at Menlyn Mall, or Menlyn Pretoria. Let's just run it again. Okay, so let's just do the whole zoom thing again. Maybe if I double click there we go. That's better. Okay, so if I zoom in and zoom in closer, I'll get to those two locations. So there you can see there's the Mainland Shopping Center. You can see the title on the picture, Mainland Mall. If I click on that one, you can also see Protea Hotel. And what the anchor basically does there, it just tells you where in the picture are you actually, or is that specific marker actually. So in this case, for our example, we've set the marker to be at the bottom left. So in the bottom left of my picture will be the exact location of that specific latitude, longitude mark. Okay, so it's the Protea Hotel and then Mainland Mall. So now you see that the user needs to zoom in quite a bit in order to get to it. So we can animate and zoom in automatically. So how do we do that? So in order to zoom into a specific position, we're going to use the camera position class there. And that camera position class will help us to position the camera. So we're going to say camera position, or whatever you want to call it, equals new camera position dot builder. And that will help us to build this specific camera position. And on that, you're just going to call target. And now this target is where should it zoom into. So we can choose any one of these two locations. I'm going to use Mainland Pretoria. So that will be the middle of my camera then. And then I'm going to say dot zoom to get to a specific zoom level. So let's just have the zoom level as 15. Obviously, the higher this value, the closer you zoom into a specific location, which is now Mainland Pretoria. So that's the second one, zoom. Then you can also set a bearing there, which will basically set the orientation of the camera. And if you pass in 0 degrees, that would be north. You can also pass in 90 degrees or 180 degrees or 270 or whatever your bearing should be. Okay, and then you can add a tilt to the screen also. And you can also choose the degrees on which you want to tilt it. So I'm going to say 30 degrees tilt, and then you can call dot build, which builds this whole thing for you, and you can end it off with the semicolon. So that now builds a camera position for you. This is the target, that's the zoom level, this is the bearing, north, east, south, west, or whatever, the tilt, the degrees, and then you start building it. But now still nothing happens until you go to the map and set it to the map. So you're going to say mmap.animate camera, and then you're going to call camera update factory dot new camera position, and the new camera position should be this camera position that we just defined. Okay, so let's just run this again on the virtual device and see how that changed things now. Okay, so there you see it starts running. It already zooms in for us, and we're at a specific zoom level. If you feel you need to zoom in a bit more, we can go to 16 there and run it again. Okay, so there it zooms in for us, and now it's at a different, but you can see the middle of your map is the one that you indicate as your target. So maybe the 16 won't work really well for me at this stage because they are too close or not too close to each other for that zoom level. So if I run it again, I'll go back to the 15 zoom level, and I can see both of my pictures. So this is just some simple map application that you can play around with and add your own markers and your own pictures for your markers. Just the basics of getting a Google map showing. You will also see now by setting the camera position, this compass will start showing now. So you can see in our maps activity, we set there the UI compass should be set to true. So that one will then start showing, and you can see there's the compass. And that is it for this basic map activity.